Hi, my name's Ryan, and I wanted to do a little walkthrough on how I set up Lemur to work with Reaticulate and Reaper. I'm really new to all of this. I've only been using Lemur for about a week or 2 weeks here, and pretty much all of that time has been spent trying to understand the basics of it and then figuring out how to get it to do the main thing that I need, which is to trigger articulations in Reaticulate for working with large orchestral stuff with tons of articulations. That was the main reason I got this. And as I started researching it, what I found is that there is a remarkably small amount of information specifically related to Reaticulate. What I was pleased to find is it's actually fairly easy to set up. Any of you who have been trying to figure this out probably started with Mikhel Zilmer's script that he made for Cubase, which is awesome, and which, like I'm sure many people, I kind of reverse engineered to figure out what I needed to do to make this work like I needed to. The way Reticulate's written, Jason Tackaberry's script for this makes it very, very easy to set up. It's basically just bank and patch change information that are sent out on controller 0 and controller 32. So you've got your most significant bit on 0 and your least significant bit on 32. And since I'll go here and show you on the settings for Reaticulate, it has the option to turn on feedback to control device, which I just set as my Lemur daemon 0. It's basically what I'm doing everything on. Bus 1, and set it to program changes, and it's going to feedback when you change tracks to Lemur. And boom, as you can see, that just auto-populated a set of articulations for what's called my Violin 1 extension for Berlin. And if I go back to channel 1, sometimes you've got to touch the screen to trigger it, but it is obviously now showing my Violin 1s. And the one alteration I made, obviously, if you're used to this template, I cleared out a bunch of stuff. I use typically hardware controllers for CC stuff, so I don't need that right now. And those are really easy to add back in, as you probably know. So the one thing I did, though, there was a video that I'll put a link to called Creating a Scrolling Interface Script for Lemur, and it was a video by Just Hacking Around, and this is really handy when you are working with a large bank of scripts, so you don't have to make the buttons tiny. So I just added that functionality in there, and you can literally go through step by step in his video and make it. It's pretty easy to do. So into this, basically, I'll get my iPad kind of out of the way so we can look at what we're doing in Lemur here. The bulk of this script is pretty much the same as the one that you can download from Mikhel Zilmer's Lemur tutorial series part 2. The arts page, the PC out, as you'll see here, these are the same thing. The one change is that I'm doing everything on MIDI 0. I think his was set to MIDI port 1. That's personal preference. It has not caused me any problems. The one alteration I made here is set PC out is going to get first of X plus 1 in this case. And this is because, as we all know, Lemur starts at 0. However, the Berlin rebank file starts at 1. So when I was sending out the original script, which is PC out is sending first of X, basically, the first non-null integer that you're getting from hitting these pads, it was triggering nothing on the first pad, and then it would start my legato on pad 2. So I just added 1 to that so that it was starting at 1 and would trigger like it needs to. And so I don't need to go into all the details about how Mikhel set up his script with all the key pressure and the control change information feeding back into Cubase. I don't totally even understand that because I don't work in Cubase. I just stripped that out. The control out aspect of the script wasn't doing anything the way I set this up. So basically, it all comes down to this MIDI in, MIDI args script, which is just an alteration of what he had in there. Sorry, I got to get this thing opened up. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the engine that really drives this thing, which is the script called MIDI args. It's directly lifted from Mikhel's Cubase setup. It's just been altered basically to talk to Reaticulate, like Reaticulate likes to be talked to, which I think is it's deceptively simple, which is great. Just took me a little while to realize what it was looking for. So to recap real quickly. When Reaticulate is sending out feedback to your control surface, it's sending it out as two numbers. It's sending it out as the most significant bit on CC0, and it's sending it out as the least significant bit on CC32. So those two numbers are paired together to determine the feedback, and they happen to correlate exactly to these two numbers that I've highlighted, which are in the Reaticulate rebank script. I set all these up myself, and when I first did it, I did not realize the importance of these two numbers when it would come to working with Reaticulate. So I've been reorganizing it a little bit because, for example, I want bank 51 to be my string bank and bank 52 to be my brass bank 53, because within that, you've then got this other number which can go between 1 and 127. So you could have 127 string articulation maps, 127 brass articulation maps, and so on and so forth. It gives you basically up to 16,000, a little over 16,000 options for articulation maps if you were to use everything, which hopefully you don't. So looking at this script, basically, this is where my total lack of knowledge with Lemur and scripting and things like that really comes into play. I'm sure there's probably people out there who can do this more elegantly than I did, so please let me know. I would love to learn more as I'm just getting rolling with this. But basically, what happens is we need a way to receive both the number being sent on CC0 and the number being sent on CC32, and a way to basically store that information and then use it to compare those two numbers in order to get the information we need. So what I did was I set up a CC0 receive. I don't even know if this return MIDI args element is really necessary. I don't know if it's doing anything, so you can tell me. But I just set up a script that's being triggered on MIDI, on control change, from target 0, CC 0, channel 1 through 16. So simple enough. And I even, just to be able to kind of keep track of this, I set up a monitor on my iPad to show what's happening on CC 0 and CC 32. Jumping back quickly to CC 32, you can make I made this extra CC32 input just to be able to monitor it. It's really not necessary because when we come back to the MIDI in script, you can see that it's actually being set to be triggered on MIDI, on control change from MIDI port 0 on CC32. So it's going to be receiving our least significant bit. And the reason for that is that you can look at how this is set up here. Basically, I've declared PC, my program change, as being the value of CC0. So when I click on Berlin Violin 1, you can see here, it just sent out CC0 of 51. And sorry, for some reason this software is not letting me use my full screen, so I've got everything bunched into a tiny box here. Not something I've done before. Anyway, CC0 is receiving a value of 51. Well, we tell Lemur that if it receives a value of 51, that we want to get the expression bank B01 strings. So when we go down here, we see bank B01 strings. So we're already looking in that bank now. And what we want to get is bank B01 strings and then some articulation here. So that's the blank. What articulation is that? It's going to be the value of whatever y is. So y is MIDI args value 1 that is being received by this script. So the CC number being sent on channel 32 is our y value. So as you can see on the iPad, When I click on violin 1, touch the screen, it just sent out 51-1. So it just grabbed the articulations in this very first script. It might not surprise you that if I go down to 2, it just sent 51-2 and pulled up the script for the violin 1 extensions. And in much the same fashion now, if we jump out of my string bank and go down to brass, you can watch the numbers over here jump. The brass just sent CC052 to switch the bank to trumpet or to brass, and then sent patch number 1 on CC32 to trigger the first trumpet patch, so on and so forth. If I scroll down to my winds here, it's getting CC53, and I haven't even dealt with that stuff yet. So that part is not complete. But hopefully this gives you a basic overview of how you can take this script that I'm sure a lot of people have looked at and tweak it to your needs. It's basically just getting CC0 value of 51, just like here. When I go to brass, which is ways down here, you'll see all my brass stuff is set to bank 52. So when it gets 52, it goes to BO2 brass, and then looks for the articulation map corresponding to the CC0 value plus the CC32 value. So that's a good primer on it, and probably enough for now. Please hit me with questions or feedback. I'm still totally learning this stuff, so I just wanted to get something up because I know a lot of people were asking, and I was looking for days and had a very difficult time finding specific information about this. So thank you. Hope this helps, and hope you can use it. Thanks. Bye.